Okay. And I'm now recording on my end in GarageBand. And man, we had some technical difficulties. I don't know what I did, but the universe is not on my side this entire week. My mic wasn't working right. My monitor's not working right. I had to set up my old mixer to use this mic. This is a USB mic, but you guys don't really care. What you care about is Talkin Nets, talking about the Brooklyn Nets. So we're going to skip all the other stuff. We talked about a little bit. It'll be on the podcast, the intro, what we talked about. But for the most part, we just want to play your voicemails and react to what you guys have to say. Now, disclaimer, I did not have time to go through 18 voicemails. This is going to be a little bit of a wild card, but this whole week has been a wild card for me if you've been following me and my saga. So let's see what comes through this speaker right now, and let's see what you guys had to say. Let's see. Audio clip number 1 that came in. Actually, I'm going to save the audio clip that came in this morning. Let's go all the way back. At least we'll be in chronological order. This is from Tuesday.
Hey, Keith. Hey, Hudson. I was going to send this one, hopefully, in good regards. First of all, congrats on 100 pods. Keith, I know you've done all 100. Hudson, I don't remember exactly which one. I've listened to all 100, though. Within a week that they come out, I try to get to that. I try to listen to them. I really wish that this would have been in good regards, but I feel like just this season, especially as seasons like winding down, the Nets are treating the regular season like the Yankees do, like where they know that they're going to make the playoffs. So rest everyone. Scrappy guys aren't going to get too much minutes because they don't want them to get hurt or get any big suspensions. Like they're going to play KD, they'll play Kyrie, all that kind of stuff. But James Harden won't play until the playoffs at least. And so not too worried about the rest of the season. I would love for us to get the 1 seed, of course. I would love for us to hold on to the 2 seed. I doubt that's going to happen at this point. But tend off the pod. Brooklyn.
Yeah, so from there, the Yankee parallels I've already thrown out there. It's eerily similar to how the Yankees do it, and I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the Yankees. They haven't won a championship since 2009, so clearly their strategy doesn't work. Thanks for shouting us out on the 100th episode. And that voicemail came in Tuesday. He spoke on Harden not playing in the playoffs. As of Tuesday, we thought that was the case. Hudson.
Look, it doesn't work for the Yankees. It doesn't work in any type of sports. I hope the Nets change their tune. I think Harden is forcing the Nets to change their tune by saying that he's definitely going to play a couple games before the playoffs to ramp himself up. He's got to do it. It's got to happen, or else things don't look too good. And with the way things are going right now, the 3 seed looking like a possibility, and we can't let that happen. We can't take our foot off the brakes, because if you get used to taking your foot off the brakes, it's hard to stop doing that.
Yeah, creates bad habits. Losing is just as infectious as winning. Like, we just lost 4 games in a row. These guys are going out there getting beat, and once that gets planted in you against some of these teams, it's contagious. Next voicemail.
All right, the issue is obviously that we just need James Harden back. But the other thing is I think Steve needs to change up the rotation, give Cross more minutes and give Bruce more minutes and cut down Shaman's minutes and maybe Blake's and Jeffrey's too. But it depends on the matchups, obviously.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's tough, right? Because we're looking at these rotations and we're looking at the guys playing, and you talk about Blake. I've loved what I've seen out of Blake Griffin. I think in the playoffs, he should be full go. I don't know how many minutes or restrictions, whatever. And then when we're looking at other guys, I say it's tough because without Harden is the first guy you put in, right? And then you figure out the rest from him. And I think I put out a tweet the other night or last night. I was like, maybe Joe Harris can come off the bench and be a weapon. Maybe he can be more effective that way. All of this is subject to change. Hudson, your thoughts on the rotations and what we've been seeing?
Well, I agree with him. I don't necessarily agree that we should take minutes away from those players, but certainly we should try and get Clax more involved. He played very well in the minutes he was given in the game that was played last night. But at the same time, it's pretty clear that we have a rebounding issue, and it's just frustrating to see we have this great rebounder in Alize Johnson, who in the last time he put up significant minutes, put up a 2020 game, and in games where he's putting up more than 6 minutes, he's putting up 8.5 rebounds on average. I don't know why we're just letting him sit on the bench, be a cheerleader. I don't know why we signed him to a contract that goes a couple years into the future if we're just going to let him sit on the bench and be a cheerleader when he's the answer to at least one of the problems that the Nets have. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and I think changes need to be made, and I don't love what Nash has been doing with the rotations recently.
I don't think anyone does. I see Slick Nick in the chat says Steve Nash is going to be the downfall of this team. And in the beginning of the pod, I said how Joe Harris was on R2C2. He praised Steve Nash, saying that Steve Nash has everyone's respect because he's Steve Nash, but people also love him because of the emotional connection he makes with the players. He's able to connect with these guys on a level that no other coach can. All that is great. All that is great. But if it doesn't translate into wins and it doesn't translate into effectiveness, if it doesn't translate into the Nets getting it done this year, no one is going to care that the players love Steve Nash. Here's the next voicemail.
I'll tell you what's wrong with the Nets right now. That motherfucking bald KD piece of shit is making us lose games right now. He's been cold for 2 straight fourth quarters, baby.
Oh, well, that's what you get when you got all of these voicemails. A wild card.
Yeah.
He just called the trash KD. He said
I don't know.
KD's a bald piece of shit. Is that
don't
what
really get that? Don't really get the KD trash. The only person that Kobe ever said that he couldn't figure out how to guard. Players have a bad game every once in a while. You let KD shoot those shots. I don't know if he's talking about last night's game or whatever. But
yeah, that voicemail came in last night at 10:09. What did KD have? 20 and 9, and like it was.
Yeah, KD didn't have his best game ever. Too much ISO ball. Didn't love what we saw from him. It happens. It's KD. It's not going to happen twice. It happened once. It will not happen for the rest of the season.
We support Kyrie, but we support KD too. I'm not rocking with.
I didn't even know we had to say that though. Didn't know.
Yeah,
we had to say that.
That was weird. And he's not bald. He got a little bit of peasy naps. Next voicemail.
I guess what's wrong with the Nets is it starts with Steve Nash. Ultimately, this is Sean Marks' guy, and he probably picked wrong. We're in the May, and he still hasn't figured it out from his rotations to his use of timeouts. It's all just mind-boggling. Mike James, the turnover machine, he's getting more minutes than Tyler Johnson, which is just asinine, given the way he plays. Claxton isn't getting enough minutes. Alize Johnson, who's practically a double-double whenever he gets enough time to play, he's just not seeing the court anymore. At this point of the season, it's a bit troubling that they're still trying to work kinks out as they continue to free fall and just slide in the standings. Hopefully they could turn it around right before the playoffs, but ultimately if they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals at minimum, I'm pointing the fingers at Steve Nash.
Damn.
He's the head coach, right? He's the head coach.
He's got the hardest
job. That's where the buck stops, right?
He's had 34 different starting lineups. I think they said something like 27 or 28 different players play. People are calling for guys like Bruce Brown. People are calling for guys like Alize Johnson. People are calling for guys like Mike James to not get as many minutes. But it's like, I don't know, man. Obviously, they know more than us. Is Mike James a liability turning the ball over? Is Alize Johnson a liability on defense? Is that why these guys are not getting Tyler Johnson is back. He's a veteran. He's a guy that I don't fucking know, man. I got no answers for this shit, right? Like, we're losing games. We got a rookie head coach who seems like his number one priority is health and the 3 R's: rest, ramp up, restrictions. Because all you see is guys resting, guys still ramping up, and minutes restrictions. And we're losing games. We're dropping in the seedings, dropping in the rankings. And now the fans are worried, right? I said not long ago, number one and not worried. Well, when you're not number one and you're looking like you're about to be number 3, there is some reason to worry. And I'm with you guys. I'm concerned. I'm not worried as far as like Harden and the full healthy team and these guys playing and being able to compete and get there, but they got to be in the position. They got to be in position to win. They got to be set up for success. And the regular season games are winding down. there's a small runway. It sucks to see us lose 4 games in a row. We got to get it right. Hudson, you got anything else for that caller?
Fans are back. Fans are back too, right? So in the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of fans. That high seed is starting to mean more and more. It's not just a talent thing. You're going to be playing in an arena with fans yelling at you, chirping you. We saw KD talking it up with that woman on the sidelines the other day. It's going to make a difference having that home court advantage.
And these are Nets fans. Something I said in the last episode was like, yo, the Nets have never been this arrogant. They've never been this cocky. And some people, didn't look at it as arrogant or cocky, but I look at it as arrogant and cocky when you're not using all your bullets. I look at it as you being too sure of yourself when you're not trying to win every game that you're in to secure the highest seed and home court advantage. Here we go. Next voicemail.
This is what's wrong with the Nets. KD and Kyrie, they're going to get their buckets. They're going to get their buckets. They're 2 walking buckets. We need James Harden badly. James Harden orchestrates the offense, creates shots for the other players. Now, KD and Kyrie, they get their buckets, but sometimes they can't get the teammates around them to get their buckets as well. Joe Harris and Landry Shamet have been straight trash last 3 games. They need to wake up. With Harden on the floor, the offense runs smoothly. Claxton gets his little alley-oops and whatnot. DeAndre Jordan, even though he's a scrub right now, he gets his alley-oops as well. Harris gets his shots. Shamet gets his shots. We need Harden back now.
Harden helps, right? I mean, I don't want to disrespect Kyrie because we shouldn't. He's averaging a large amount of assists. I think he has the highest assist totals of his career. He's doing what he can at the true point guard spot. But he's not the greatest passer in the NBA in James Harden. It's just statistically what he is. He's leads the NBA in assists when he plays. Like, that's what it is. He can't live up to that. And when we have Joe Harris and Landry Shamet not being able to hit the open shots that they do get, it's disappointing because you're not really getting many other options in that. And that's your job, right? Their job is to be snipers. And we like, Joe Harris on the drive, Landry Shamet dunking. That's all well and good. But when you get the shots in the big moments and you have the chance to hit a big 3, you got to do it. And it's been tough watching, 2 guys that we know can hit those shots with consistency, not hitting them as much. So that is one thing. But I do think that, like you said, when Harden comes back, all of that stuff gets easier. Basketball just becomes easier when James Harden is on the court. There's a reason the Nets were so good with him. The reason they were 27-9. It's because he's that good. But he needs to ramp up. He needs that time. So I'm just waiting and hoping. But we can't just be waiting and not winning games in the meantime.
Harden has the highest basketball IQ. He makes the right passes, the right reads. He reacts to the defense. He makes guys around him better. And I do think he's a large enough figure in the NBA on that floor to come back and change the whole complexion of this team with KD on his left, Kyrie on his right, and whoever else in our role players and off the bench. He's going to uplift these guys. And I say that thinking about how these guys are playing without him and what their conversations must be like. They know we need him. And he's sitting there and I'm looking at him like, yo, he's probably ready. He probably can play. He's ramping up in these practices. Ramp him up against these teams that we're going to play down the stretch. Like the Bulls, like the Cavs. It's a no-brainer that he should be in for these last games. And I think he's kind of forcing his hands, and now the fans are forcing their hands. Nets fans are like, yo, this is our opportunity. It's the best team we've ever had. Don't blow it because you're worried about health. Don't blow it because you're being super cautious. Let's get ready to rock. Next voicemail.
Aside from obviously needing our best playmaker and facilitator back in James Harden, we need to put Claxton Bruce in to help more on the defensive end, and Steve just needs to change the rotation. And we just need to pick up the energy level as a whole.
Now, before I pass it to Hudson to talk to you about Nicholas Claxton, we do need to pick up the energy. And like I just said, I think these guys, they go into this game, or they go into these games, right? No James Harden. Claxton is back after COVID protocols. He's not rocking. He's 22 years old. They're being cautious with him. He makes a huge difference, in my opinion. Hudson, please speak to this caller and our listeners about the impact of a Nick Claxton, a young guy that's hungry and trying to play. And he even mentioned Bruce Brown. I want to see these gritty, scrappy, dogs that we acquired out there.
Look, it's not a coincidence that the Nets feel the most confident, that the Nets look the best when we have those secondary guys playing their best. Just a couple weeks ago when we were talking about, the Nets being first, how great they're playing, we were highlighting how many threes Landry Shamet was hitting, how well Bruce Brown was playing. And that's important because it just makes the game easier when you have secondary scoring, but also the defense that they provide, right? Obviously, we know what Bruce Brown does. He's a center in a 6'5" player's body, right? Nick Claxton put the clamps on Luka for an extended period of time in that game against the Mavs. That's not something to slouch at. It's Luka, obviously. Clax is a massively important defensive player for the Nets, and he's not getting that much run, in addition to him being, 6'11". And maybe he doesn't have the most meat in his bones. Maybe he can't necessarily muscle in for all those rebounds amongst the trees, but he can get some, right? He can get some. There is something to be said for the Nets not having any type of rebounding when you're not playing good rebounders, right? And regardless, the Nets are losing games. So it's time to experiment. If we're using this time to see what works for the playoff, we know what doesn't work, right? We've seen what doesn't work. These last 4 games have been an expose on what does not work. So we got to change things up, Keith. And if that means going to Claxton, it means going to Bruce, it means going to Tyler Johnson, it means going to Alizé Johnson, that's what it means.
Yeah, there's no silver lining in this shit. It's a direct message. It's a cause and effect. It's the exact results to go off of. There, I'm not buying the, we lose 4 games now and it won't happen in the playoffs because it's happening now. Nah, look at yourselves in the mirror. That's like it's not how it works. Next voicemail.
This is Chance from Jersey. After the post game for the Nets versus Mavs, I'm gonna tell you what's wrong. What's wrong is teams are figuring out if Joe Harris and Salmon are not scoring, they're figuring out how to guard them. We're not going to win games unless KD or Kyrie carries, because Joe Harris and Salmon hit key threes in the games that we win. And if they start breaking shots like they are now, it's obvious that it's clear that we're going to lose games. So they're going to need to start finding their shot. Because if we play like the Heat in the playoffs, Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, they outplay Joe Harris and Landry Shamet, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah, that's basically what I think. Because KD is going to give KD some time. KD is he's still trying to find his rhythm. But we need role players to start hitting threes, or we're going to be in big trouble in the playoffs.
Ain't no chumps in the playoffs, Keith.
Yeah, and there's good coaches in the playoffs that know how to scheme and look at our team and be like, yeah, we can stop them if we do this, or we can force them into this. And if they don't execute, we got them beat. And yeah, that's what I was saying. Maybe Joe Harris can be a better weapon off the bench. I don't know. Something is going to change. All of this uneasy feeling we're having, I see in the chat, is it Chris Natasha? I'm freaking out. I said, understandable. You should be freaking out because we have the most talented roster and it seems like we don't know how to use it. It's like we have all of this talent. Joe Harris was just on R2C2 talking about in 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back at the Nets saying, wow, they had Hall of Famers together. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant all on the same team. 3 of the players that you're going to hold in the highest regard of any basketball player you've ever seen. And if they don't figure it out fast, we could end up in a position that I don't even want to speak into existence. Let's go to the next voicemail. This is from Jamie, who has called in a bunch of times. It's over a minute, but she gets to have over a minute on Talkin Nets.
Hi, this is Jamie. Hey guys, I just wanted to call in. I'm seeing all the things on Twitter about the game. I didn't get to watch it. I just want to encourage everybody. It's going to be okay. We hadn't really dealt with this type of adversity. We need this because this is what's going to force the coaching style to really zone in on lineup. That's been the thing that I've really seen over these last losses, is that these lineups that they're putting out aren't quite working well, and Nash isn't pulling the trigger quick enough to pull out people that's not bringing it. I get this was an occasion where, looks like KD didn't have a good game. Sometimes that's going to happen. It's just bad when everybody else also is having a bad game. So you got one person out by themselves like Kyrie. But they need to figure out these lineups. That's at the end of the day, that will fix a lot. Things defensively, everything. They need to figure out these lineups. And once they do that, I think we'll get back on the road. But I hope y'all doing well. I really appreciate everything that y'all do for us Nets fans, bringing us the content that you do. So much appreciated. Y'all have a great day.
Appreciate you, Jamie. And yeah, you know what the biggest thing she said? They got to figure out these lineups. And I feel like if we would have won a couple of these games or didn't lose 4 in a row, they would have been in Chillville. They would have still been chilling like, yo, we're good. We got it. And now losing 4 games is that reality check, is that look in the mirror time. Let's figure it out, starting with Steve Nash, knowing who to put in the game, who to bring out of the game. Shit, knowing when to call a timeout. I don't want there to be a problem-solving situation this late in the season where you're not calling a timeout. I looked at that as a cover-up, bro. I looked at that as like, nah, you're saying that in the media when you were frozen in the moment. And with these lineups and substitutions, again, I'm going to go, it starts at the top. Once we're starting with James Harden playing point guard for 40 minutes a night, the rest can fall into place. Hudson, your thoughts?
We've been talking about the Steve Nash rotations, the Steve Nash timeout issues this whole season, right? And that's disappointing because part of me wants to say this 4-game losing streak is going to wake him up. It's going to jar him up. It's going to be like, okay, I need to do something different. We all need to start doing something a little different, no matter what that is, no matter who you are. You have to make some type of change to make this team successful. But Nash hasn't done that all year, right? And that's what the problem is, I think. And because, you can be a rookie head coach. You can make rookie head coach mistakes. But at the end of the day, you can't make those mistakes on the Nets. You can't make those mistakes when you have the careers of 3 Hall of Famers, the trajectory of the rest of their careers. You have that in your hands, right? He's got responsibilities to other people. He's got responsibilities to legacies, to Hall of Fame legacies, just like his own, just like himself not being able to get that ring. He is standing in the way, or is the key to players getting rings and shutting up haters and making themselves forever immortalized in the city of New York. So he needs to coach and to act with that same level of attitude, of importance, of almost self-righteousness to what the Nets cause is, or else things are going to keep going bad and he's going to keep making mistakes and making excuses.
Maybe it's time it is a time for a philosophy change. It is time to say, okay, Nash, it's your first year, bro, but we got to get this right. There's a lot riding on this. We got to get this right now. Like, there is no more of this, like I don't know. He's too chill for me sometimes. Or I'm like, you must not be feeling what these fans are feeling. Next voicemail.
You want to know what's wrong with the Nets today? I'll tell you. Basically, apparently we have this amazing medical staff that can save anyone from any type of injury. And that's why KD got the injury surgery when he was with us. Before he was with us, my partner. But we can't stop him from getting injured again while he's injured. We can't stop Harden from getting injured again while he's injured. And they can't talk any sense into Kyrie. Now, if we pay for a super team, we're going to have no money left for anyone good. We're going to have no money for a center. Oh, wait, we already dropped $10 million on a center. It's DeAndre Jordan. Trash. Blake is okay. DeAndre is trash. We need to get our star players healthy. But the secret to it all is Alize Johnson and Tyler Johnson. I mean, whatever Alize's last name. Alize and Tyler Johnson need to get back into the lineup, and we need to shoot out someone else. I don't know who, but they need to be in the lineup.
You were right, bro. Johnson and Johnson.
A family company, Keith. We got to get that family energy. We got to get it moving. We got to get it working, and it's not, right? It's just simply not. And that is one thing. We talked about earlier in the podcast about what Joe Harris said about, the Nets having this great medical staff. At the same time, they have this medical staff. Prevention is a part of medicine, of sports medicine, right? You have to be able to prevent injuries. And that's something we see in all sports. And whether it's a lack of conditioning or what have you, these soft tissue injuries that the Nets are sustaining are a risky business type situation, because just like we saw with James Harden, we thought it was only going to be out a couple of days. Now it's been 19, 20 days. It's ridiculous. I'm worried, Keith, because if we have something like that happen in the playoffs, there's no time after. There's no after the fact, right? It's going to be a long summer if we have an injury and we can't get it done in the playoffs, and that's worrying.
Man, in the playoffs, fuck these doctors. It's time to play. At the end of the day, this is competitive basketball at the highest level. At the end of the day, these guys are paid a lot of money to play basketball, and they all need to be on the court going in, leaving it all out there. So we'll get there, man. We'll get there. And yeah, everybody's calling for it, in the chat. Chris Natasha, why isn't Nash playing Alizé? He could have gotten the rebounds that we couldn't get the last 4 losses. Steve Nash needs to step it up, Pierre says in the chat. Renzo says no one can defend Giannis. Well, we watched Alizé Johnson give Embiid a hard time. We wanted to see Claxton a little bit more on him. They better come up with some type of formula or strategy, because the way it's looking, we could dance with Giannis in the playoffs. And, they were the favorites. Before this big 3 got put together, they were the favorites to come out of the East. You think they're still not trying to do that? They went and created their own big 3. So we could have some issues on our hands. Still 6 more voicemails. Let's get through them.
What's up? Sabuki here from Nairobi, Kenya. And man, the Nets role players have to make shots. Harden can't fix that. We can't have the league's best 3-point shooter shooting 33% from 3. And he was 1 of 5 from 3 in the other Bucks game. Shots that are usually layups for him. And lastly, they have to play Claxton and Alizé more. They're much more athletic, versatile defenders and better rebounders than Blake. And Blake is shooting 36% from the field. So it's not like you're giving up much on the offensive end either. Thank you.
My guy,
he's right.
From Nairobi, Kenya. That's cool.
International.
And he didn't say anything wrong. He was spot on with his assessment. It's like, why are all the fans calling for the obvious players to be in the game? And they're not in the game because they're ramping up. They're on minutes restrictions.
Or they're just not being played. Or they're just not being played.
We don't know. We don't know which one it is. Is it Nash not playing them, or is he being advised by the medical staff to not play them? Or is Nash just forgetting? Like, sometimes I see like Steve Nash and I'm like, is he forgetting that he is the one steering the ship? Is he forgetting that he has power in this game? You're not a fan watching the game like we are at home, powerless. You have the power. Bro, it's starting to get spooky. These are not the scary hours we were promised. Here's a quick one, a quick voicemail, 3 seconds.
I think the problem
is Nash. Gotcha.
It's Nash. Yep, we know.
Yo, this is Georg Kim on Twitter. Shout out Talkin Nets. I think the problem with the Nets, I think with most Kevin Durant teams, they get bored in the regular season. So, they come up with different issues for themselves, and they figure them out. And then come playoff time, these Kevin Durant built teams go on rampages. For me, yeah.
I hope. Like,
right, that's all we got left, right?
That's all I have left, is to hope that we get into the playoffs and we are wowed by Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. They're just that good. But that's not a solid thing to bank on. This is the NBA. Everybody is good. It is hard to win regular season basketball games, as you just watched us lose 4 in a row. We can't waltz into the playoffs not having our rotations together, not having all our dogs ready to run, and not having a full-out plan and strategy on how to get it done, how to stop the bleeding, how to not let teams go on 16-1 runs, how to call timeouts, affect the game, and don't let these teams just bully us. And we got to have some respect for our opponents.
We
There's
might be
good
playing the Heat in the
coaches.
first round, right? That's a great coach on a team that was in the finals last year with great players that have grown and expanded their roles. Like, there's no easy games. There's no easy wins. This isn't going to be like last year, the Raptors going up the Nets, sweeping the Nets out. It's not going to be a pushover. These aren't teams that are starting Rodions Kurucs and Zan and Musa, right? This isn't the bubble. This is the real deal with fans in the stands, with good teams. You can't overlook anybody, and we can't bank on greatness being great all the time, because at the end of the day, it takes a village, and the Nets don't look like they have a village right now. They got a couple leaders, but they got to get the rest of the squad behind them.
Hey, how's it going? This is Carol from Brooklyn. I think the Nets' problem has to be our head coach, Steve Nash. Steve Nash's inexperience and inability to, come up with a good flow of.
That's it. But probably come up with a good flow of substitutions, rotations, who to put in, who to take out when they're not getting it done, who to say, you're up next, go get it done. We're not there yet. We have the most talented roster in the NBA, and I stand by that. But what good is having all these superpowers if you don't know how to use them? I said that on the last episode. It's like we're the most powerful we're the most powerful guy in the galaxy. We just don't know how to use our powers yet. Why? We shouldn't be Spider-Man figuring out how to web sling and wall crawl. At this point, we should be Thanos. We should be literally the most powerful beings. And I think we need all of this. When they make the championship DVD, at the end, they're going to say the Nets go on a 4-game losing streak, maybe 5. Who knows? And they're going to say something changed. Maybe Jacques Vaughn spoke up a little louder. Maybe Mike D'Antoni said enough is enough. Maybe Steve Nash said, I need more help. We need to make sure that this thing doesn't get derailed. The stakes are too high. We're playing for a championship. One goal. We're going to go through the playoffs and bring a championship back to New York. And everybody from the front office to the medical staff, to the trainers, to the coaches, to the players have to buy in and figure it out. It ain't all on Nash. He's got an incredibly hard job, his first job as a rookie. But you know what, Sean Marks? You decided that this rookie coach would be the guy. You decided that we didn't want guys with more experience to be that guy. You gave him 2 good assistant coaches, and there's a lot of
the
smart
highest
people.
paid assistant coaches in the NBA, actually. Jacques Vaughn is the highest. D'Antoni's got to be up there, right?
2 guys with head coaching
that staff
experience
for a reason.
They're
we got an
playing second
offensive and a
fiddle.
defensive coordinator. Jacques Vaughn's our defensive coordinator. Jacques Vaughn isn't doing a good job, right? It can't all be on Nash. It's got to be on the coaching staff. You have to imagine, right? Nash doesn't give me dictator vibes. It's got to be everyone. Everyone holds the torch of responsibility
There
at some
is
point
no
here.
dictator vibes with Nash. I listened to Joe Harris say, like, people love him. They have an emotional connection with him. Like, and they all idolized him. We all looked up to him for his play in the NBA. All that is great. But you know when it's not great? When you fail, when you lose. And then it's like, that shit didn't translate. All right, 2 more voicemails and we got to get out.
Yo, Keith, Richard from Greenpoint. I'm just calling to say I'm getting real bad vibes from this team, man. Feel like we're gonna move down to this 3 seed, and the recurring nightmare that I'm having over and over again. It's getting paired up round 1 against the Celtics, and then fucking losing to the Celtics, and then it's like, what then? Losing round 1 to the Celtics. Like, does like Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons come to my house and record their podcast like in my room? Like, is that what happens? I can't live with that, man. I can't live with us losing to the Celtics in round 1. Because we don't have any ball movement, or we can't hit our open threes, or we don't play Claxton enough in the 4th quarter. It's just off. Things are off.
It'd be a long summer.
Grant looked like crap tonight. I'm sure he'll bounce back. Felt like Kyrie was the only one able to hit a shot. And health with this team. It's all about health, and I don't know. I'm starting to lose faith, but yeah. Hopefully things get better. But definitely a low point of the season for us. So yeah, I'm gonna try to stay strong in this world.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be the guy to get on this podcast and sell you some nonsense. You should be worried. I'm worried now. You should be feeling down. Losing 4 games in a row this late in the season, you should be alarmed. We all are. And the fucked up thing is that we seem to know the answers. It seems like all the fans are watching the game and saying the same things. So what aren't they seeing?
This has been a theme all season, right? This has been a theme all season. The Nets Twitter coaches are actually making good calls, right? When we said play Bruce, took a couple games, Nash played Bruce, he was playing great. When we said play Alizé, he played well. When we said play Claxmore, he played well. When we said, give DeAndre Jordan DNPs, it happened, right? And it worked. I don't know what I'm missing, but I don't want this podcast to be only doom and gloom. But I think Nets fans need to look in the mirror and realize we're not, undefeatable, right? We can lose games, and we aren't just going to waltz into the playoffs. We can't bring that energy, and everybody in the organization needs to know that, or else things aren't going to go well because no one wins with that mentality.
Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat, Alizé gets 20 rebounds. Nash decides, he doesn't need minutes. Hey, you guys got to think of the pedigree. Where did we find this kid? Came out of the G League. Maybe they're not looking at him like we're looking at him. We see the 20 rebounds. Maybe they see a liability. Maybe they see a guy that's not all the way there yet, not all the way ready. And we're getting out rebounded, and maybe they're thinking, he's not going to be able to go in there and bully. Who knows? This is the last voicemail, and we're going to bring the energy up, and we're going to close this thing on a positive note after this last audio clip. This might be our guy, Jeffrey.
Guys, it's Jeffrey, and I hate to say it, but the Nets are in trouble. I really don't understand what the hell Steve Nash is doing. He's not calling timeouts at the right times. He's giving up momentum-shifting runs that changes the game dramatically. Why is he not putting Claxton in the game more? I don't really know. I would like to see Claxton start against Jokic, but looking at Steve Nash, he's still probably not going to do that. Why didn't he play Bruce Brown for the entire first half of the second Bucks game? We saw what he did, hustling, getting rebounds on a 1v4. And this offense isn't fluid at all. In the clutch, KD has been struggling the last few games. There's no fluidity on the court. Kyrie is the only person that can get buckets, it feels like. Except KD, even though he struggled last night. And Alizé, where the hell is Alizé? I don't know what Steve Nash is doing with his rotations, with his game plans, but he's got to get it together. Claxton, I think 24 minutes in 3 games, that's unacceptable.
Look, before we change up the energy on this podcast, I do want to make the point. It looked like at the end of that game against the Mavericks that the Nets were taking turns on offense. There was a Kyrie possession and there was a KD possession. It was a Kyrie, it was a KD possession. And I don't like that energy. And I don't want to put everything on James Harden, but that is something that he changes, right? He brings other people into the offense, and that's something that the Nets look like they need right now because it sucks to watch a possession where Kyrie comes down and then it's just KD standing in the corner like the tallest motherfucker on the planet, right? You need to have some type of fluidity, and James Harden brings it, and I need him to bring it soon because, man, it's feeling tough. It's feeling tough. But Keith, tell me why. Tell me why we should be positive. Tell me why we should bring that good energy to close this podcast.
You got to weather the storm. I had a rough week myself this week. I got a flat tire on Tuesday. They towed my shit at like 3 a.m. all the way to the other side of New York. I'm in Great Neck, Bayside, New York. Took an Uber there twice. Those Ubers aren't cheap. Those are $90 Ubers to get out there from where I live in Jersey. And I'm taking L's, right? But then I'm still able to get to Yankee Stadium, have a good time, and get a win. And, there's positive things that come out of negatives. There's positive things that will come out of this. And I know this from my own experience in life. I had a week in the summer, last summer, where I got towed and then I got locked out of my apartment in the same night. And it ended up costing me like a lot of money. But then I won big. Some good luck came my way. I had to focus in. I had to lock in. I had to say, yo, you're lacking. You need to think about what you're doing more. You need to sit down and focus on what you need to change to get right so that these things don't happen. And I feel like that's what's going to happen right now. This is going to be the biggest leap for Coach Nash. This is going to be the biggest leap for the Nets players. You're about to get the best player in the NBA back. I know Harden is not going to win MVP. I know we were hard on that MVP train, but we know that this guy is powerful. We know what he can do. You get one of the best players in the NBA, one of the best players all time, some would say, back on your team. There's no time for half-stepping. There's no time for Nash not to be sure. Mike D'Antoni is there. Jacques Vaughn is there. I don't care if they're standing up in the game next to him. He can't be on his own as a rookie head coach, and I think there's enough people screaming about that. Fans, people on the outside, people on the inside, haters, people that want to see us fail are now calling it out. And we're going to weather the storm, right? We got to play Nikola Jokic, who might be the MVP this weekend in Denver. High altitude. Might be another loss. We might be holding on a 5-game losing streak. But you know what? When everything was going smooth, when everything was going fine, it seems like, man, our world, Nets world, the Nets can't be beat. They can't be touched. So the silver lining that they're pushing, I'm not buying it. But what I am buying is, hey, you got to go through it to get to it. Good will come from this because they know they can't repeat the same mistakes going forward. They know they can't have this go on in the playoffs, and they're on the road, and I don't know how much time they get to sit down and meet and watch film.
They got a week, Keith. They got a week for the play-in game.
But we're getting down to it. This is it. And they know what's at stake. They know what they did to create this team. They know that it's championship or nothing, and that their names are riding on this. They know what they've talked, what they've put out there. There's no time to just say, oh, we'll figure it out. No, it is getting figured out now. And I expect to see a different energy against the Nuggets. If we don't win that game, we don't win that game. But I expect them to go out there and look different. I expect Nash to be different. I expect a sense of urgency out of Nash. You know, he's very calm and collected. But now I think it's, hey, bro, you're in the fire. No one cares that you're a rookie head coach. We're 67 games in. It's time. We need to win, and we need to look solid, and we need to now make up for losing our number 1 ranking and dropping down potentially to the 3 and maybe dancing with the Celtics, which would just be the universe connecting. Wouldn't it be some type of weird energy that, hey, last time we mortgaged our future, last time we made a trade like that with the Celtics, look where we end up now with this new big 3. The Celtics got a great coach and some very solid players that in a playoff series could knock us off. And I don't think the Nets can afford that. And they know that they can't afford a first-round exit. We'd be the laughing stocks of the sports world. So pressure is on. And you know what? They say pressure creates diamonds. And I understand that from my own life experience. You need to go through some shit. You need to feel the pressure because when it's smooth sailing, when everything's handed to you, that's when you get punched in the face. You have no response. At least now we'll get punched in the face and we'll know what to do. And I think these guys are going to work on a lot in this next few weeks. And that week when the playoff or the play-in comes and we're not playing, that is going to be a week for the Nets to practice and work. We're going to be all right. There is enough time. It sucks to lose. It sucks to go on a losing streak as a fan. And the answers seem to be right in front of us. But these guys are smart. Sean Marks, Steve Nash, coaching staff, medical staff, they're smart. And now I think they're feeling a little pressure and they're going to respond. They have no choice but to respond, or we'll be on this podcast very sad. We'll be on Twitter talking about the Nets very sad. And I don't think that they're going to disappoint and let us down. There's too much riding on this magic carpet ride that's supposed to take us to the finals and bring a championship back to New York.
That's
Hudson,
it.
You got anything?
Can't say it any better than that. Pressure builds diamonds,
man.
and I hope the Nets become that diamond. But right now, got some work to do, Keith. Everyone does. The fans, the players, the coaching staff, the organization. Everyone's got to put their head down and get working because no other time. It's going to be a long summer if the Nets can't put it together, and I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right. That's all we got. Thanks for watching the live stream. Make sure you guys subscribe, rate, and review the pod. We've got 77 ratings. We could use some reviews before the playoffs where we're planning on being live and doing some cool stuff for you guys to cover this playoff run. The voicemails. I don't even got to tell you to leave a voicemail. There was 17 voicemails, but that number is 201-870-0461. We play pretty much everyone's voicemail. We appreciate all you guys. Make sure you follow us at Talkin Nets on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube. And we'll be back after the next 2 games. Once again, we play the Denver Nuggets this Saturday. And then we play the Bulls in Chicago on Tuesday. And we'll be back Wednesday with an episode. Hopefully we have at least 1 win to talk about. And, hey, like I said, it can't always be smooth sailing. And through my own life experience, I know what comes after this. Like I said, I had a rough week. Shit, I had a rough week on this pod. It was a rough couple hours on this pod. I couldn't get my mic to work. The mic was dropping. We went live 3 times. You know, it's all connected. It's all connected. Figure it out. We figured it out. We did the show. It took 2.5 hours, but we're done. Talkin Nets 101. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn. Thank you, Talkin Nets fam, for watching and listening. Let's go Nets, Brooklyn. And that's it, folks. That's it. All we can hope for is improvements, changes. Change got to come. You know, they're not going to keep rolling out there like this. You got too many voices in that room, powerful voices. You got too many guys in that room with powerful names and pedigrees. They're not going to keep doing this. And you know what they're not going to keep doing? They're not going to keep James Harden waiting in the wings. Like it's starting to look dumb. It's starting to look ridiculous. Like if this guy is healthy, let's go.
You play him. Let's get it going. Right? No more waiting. No more waiting.
And we can answer the chat. The pod is done. The pod is recorded, but we can answer the chat. And I saw, so I wrote something about, Claxton. A sports fan said Claxton isn't playing a lot because he needs to ramp up. And I said, ramp up from COVID protocols. He's 22. He didn't even have COVID. Like, what are we ramping up a 22-year-old kid for? He's athletic. And I know he has a past injury history, but like he wants to play because he missed so much time.
He was posting free clacks, free 33 on his Snapchat story.
He shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't be feeling like he's being held back by the organization. So, okay. The next thing was, I get that he has to ramp up, but it kind of feels like a disciplinary action. Now, do we think that behind the scenes, Clax and Alizé were partying or something, and then they got the COVID protocols or whatever came into effect? Then maybe. Clax is 22, Alizé is 24. They're young guys. We can't be punishing these guys and in turn punishing ourselves. You're going to punish players for having a good time, young guys having a good time, and then you take L's when you need these guys. And then Slick Nick says, I think D'Antoni is trying to take Nash's job. No, I don't think that's how that's going to work at all. I don't think there's a scenario where they fire Nash and upgrade D'Antoni. Like, this is a package deal in the positions they're in. It's Nash all the way through this season and probably the next season, because that's a Sean Marks hire. That's an organizational hire. They had plenty of options out there that they could have hired. Like, there were plenty of head coaches out there with experience that they could have taken a look at. They surprised us with the splash name of Steve Nash, and he's got to pick it up. He's got to figure it out. It's his job. He's getting paid a lot of money, and it's a high-profile position. He could be doing anything in the world. He decided that he wanted to be a head coach in the NBA, so be that. What else from the chat? Do you think Dinwiddie will return? So we did 2 live streams before this one, and we talked about Spencer still kind of, just playing that game and tweeting and talking about coming back. And yeah, I think he's going to try and come back. But with this overcautious Nets team and our medical team, I don't know. I think Spence will use his platform, and if he feels ready to play, he will say that he's ready to play. But if the Nets organization doesn't feel like it's safe for him, he's not going to play. But I think it shouldn't be a matter of safety. Like, if this guy's ready to play, you play him, because he's trying to play for his next contract, and he did all of that rehab, not for next year, for this year.
Just feels like things could go so well or could go so wrong. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now.
Leon writes, we are first in the league in defensive rating with Nick Claxton playing, and we're 27th without him. That's an interesting stat if that is true.
That is true. That stat is true,
bro. and okay, so the kid makes that much of a difference, and because he went out in Miami and had a good time, he's being punished. I would hope that is not the. I would hope that's not the case. I could see that. Let's see. When our big 3 sits, at least we get a really good facilitator in a bucket, Nets world. All right, that's all we got. This stream is about to end at exactly 50 minutes. Once again, keep your heads up, guys. Things are going to change. Things are going to change.